Fran.
Hi.
Can you believe we're having this conversation, woman?
If you would have asked me about a year and a half ago, absolutely not. But today, with your help, yes, I feel like it's so surreal. Here we are.
I know. Well, it's so funny. Something that I like to joke with women about is it's so crazy how you go from being a listener to a guest.
Yes. Like you listen to all these podcasts, you listen to all these women tell their miracle story, and you're like, oh, am I going to be there? Yes, I think I'll be there. But in your head, you're like, I don't know, but here I am.
Well, so why don't you start us off, love, sharing a little bit about how you found yourself on this journey and ultimately how we met.
Okay. So, in 2022, I was working third shift. I worked for law enforcement. So working third shift, doing crazy things to my body. My husband and I had just got married a year ago, and we were like, okay, let's try for a baby. This will be cake. Look at everyone. They just get pregnant. So we kept trying. And I was like, 6 months later, nothing was happening. And I was like, all right, this is a little harder than I thought. Well, then in June of 2022, we ended up getting pregnant, and so excited. Obviously, like, you go through this whirlwind. We're not telling anyone. We're so excited. Can't wait to make our announcement. And then unfortunately, we went for our first heartbeat in July, and we were told there was no heartbeat, that we were miscarrying. And obviously, when you're sitting there, you're like, what did you just say? Like, there's no way. Let's check again. This is absolutely not true. So we waited, checked again, and my doctor was like, no, I'm sorry. It looks like it could be chromosomal, but we're not sure. But you're miscarrying, so your body just didn't realize it. So fast forward a couple weeks, I went with the natural way to miscarry because no one tells you what to prepare for these things. You're just kind of like, okay, there was a baby there, and now 9 weeks later, is there nothing? Like, how did we get here? So end up passing the baby naturally, and after that, I kind of just like went through the motions of life. I was like, did this really just happen? Did my body just go through this? Just basically what my body went through. I had to go on light duty at work, which was 8 to 4, just working in an office. And then I was like, okay, I think mentally I'm ready to go back. We're going to try again. I'm going to go back to work. We're just going to get routine back. I'm going to work out. Everything's going to be fine. Well, my first day back working night shift, my husband and I both work for law enforcement, and we happened to be on the same call. I got dispatched to a lady overdosing with her 5-month-old on the bed. So needless to say, when we get there, I obviously have a job to perform. I perform, and I just remember walking out of there and bawling my eyes out in my squad car, wondering how is it that people who aren't ready for a baby or can't take care of a baby so easily have this baby, and we lost ours. And now my first day back, this is one of the first calls I get. And I remember after that, I was just like, this is insane. There's no way that she can have a baby and I can't have a baby. Like, how does this happen? And from there, it was just a downhill spiral. I basically was forcing my husband to have sex. We were fighting about it. It became more of a chore than anything. And he was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is no longer fun. Immediately I was like, okay, something must be wrong with me. Like, why aren't we getting pregnant? It's been 3 months after a miscarriage, which your body needs time to relax and needs time to heal. But my mentality was, no, we need to get pregnant right away. So I immediately went to a fertility clinic where they tested me, took all my tests, and told me I had low AMH, and basically said that my egg quality was crap. And the likelihood of me getting pregnant naturally was slim again. So in my head, I'm like, here we go. Now, now I have low AMH. We're not having as much sex because it's a chore. We're fighting about it. I'm taking vitamins that I don't even know what half of them are called. And this just is no longer a fun journey. It's become so stressful and depressing and saddening. And meanwhile, all my cousins and family are having babies all around me. My best friend, And here I am, just struggling. So we try 3 rounds of IUI and end up having a chemical pregnancy, which at this point, no one ever tells you that's considered a miscarriage. So I'm like, what the heck's a chemical pregnancy? And they basically said, well, a baby tried to form, but it just didn't form well because probably your egg quality. So your next step is probably doing an HCG or an HSG, and then seeing if your tubes are blocked. That's another step we'll have to do. So that was my next step. And during that time, one doctor told me it looked like my left tube was blocked, and another one told me it looked like it was fine. But then in the same breath, they were like, well, the only way you're probably going to get pregnant is through IVF. So IUI is not working. I wouldn't waste your money anymore. Naturally, it's probably not going to work. Let's try IVF. So in my head, I'm like, okay, where the heck am I going to get $50,000 to do this with my mentality of working third shift, with my mentality of, oh my God, this is the only way I'm going to get pregnant? I was a mess. When I say a mess, my family was telling me, like, you looked very unwell. Like, it just looked like I was constantly stressed. I was sad. My husband and I were fighting. There was no longer any joy there anymore. It was because everything became a chore of something I wanted so bad, but of the pressure I was putting on all of us. Well, one day I was just scrolling through Facebook and your book popped up. And I was like, okay, let me see about this. Like, is this a joke? Let me just try reading it. So I purchased your book. I read it. And what was funny is one of the parts in your book, you talk about a song, True Believer, like coming to you and like that resonating with you. 2 weeks later, my friend from work who watched me like suffer and had actually gotten pregnant during the time I was like really depressed, sent me a song called Big Prayers. Sorry, it's emotional because it like resonated. I was like, oh my God, she had this song resonate with her. This girl's sending me this song. And when you listen to it, you're just like, oh my God, this is my life. All I need is to fix myself. So I started reading your book, realized I need to get my head out of my butt, listen to that song and realized I just need to focus on having a baby, but clearing my head and making sure I get there. So I think it was July of last year. I was like, okay, I'm going to reach out. I want to get into your program. Let me try this. It's however much money, but what's money at this point when you want something so bad? You know what I mean? So I joined your program and I realized how bad my mindset really was. Like, whoo, I was blocked up there. Did your program, and I think it was a week after I finished, I was going over to my cousin's house because we do cousins night with all my like little cousins and just play video games. And I was feeling off that weekend. I had a bridal shower, I had some drinks, and I was like, something just doesn't feel right. Took a pregnancy test and boom, positive. I was like, this can't be real. No way. Well, went to go get blood work because my doctor's been totally supportive of me. Immediately got me in for blood work. Found out my levels were rising. She was like, okay, let's do some ultrasounds. So we did a 6-week ultrasound, found out there was a heartbeat. We were like, okay, this is it. This is going to happen. Went back 4 days later for a 7-week ultrasound and found out there was no heartbeat. So again, we had miscarried. But in my head, I was like, okay, don't go to that dark place. Remember everything Roseanne taught you. Remember, things happen for a reason. Keep positive. This is going to happen. Look at your body did it. You did it naturally a second time after being told you were going to need IVF. So I was like, you know what? I have a trip for Mexico coming up in November. This was August when we found out, miscarried in September. So I was like, November, we have a trip to Mexico. We're going to go. We're going to have fun. We're going to reset. Come the new year, we'll be ready to try again. Let's not force it. Like, these are good signs. God is going to give us a baby. It's going to happen. Well, I see God had other plans for me because I had a DNC. And in October, I had my first period again. I will never forget it because I had a bachelorette party in Milwaukee and I was like, well, this sucks. I got my monthly gift, but whatever, that just means my body's starting to regulate again. Well, we were supposed to leave November 15th for Mexico. And 2 days before, I was like, I'm just going to take a test just because I know I'm supposed to get my period in Mexico. I'll try to see, like, make sure everything's good. And the faintest positive line showed up. And I was like, no, this is wrong. Like, this test is faulty. Let me take another one tomorrow. And again, a faint line showed up. And I was like, okay, no way. So we're supposed to leave in a day. I messaged my doctor. I was like, oops, I think I'm pregnant again, or it's a chemical because the test is really light. I don't know. So she's like, come in for blood work and then we'll check it. And when you get back from Mexico, we'll check again. Well, sure enough, when I went in, my levels were like 160, which is not high, but not low. So I was like, okay, it's either going to be a chemical or I'm really, really early and I just didn't realize it. So went to Mexico. I was like, I'm just going to take a couple pregnancy tests, see if they get darker along the way. I'm not going to drink because I don't want to risk anything. I'm going to go enjoy myself, though, and not stress, because if this is meant to be, this is going to happen. Let me not ruin a trip with my husband that we really needed and my best friend's wedding. So we go have literally the time of my life, sober, don't have anything to drink except for fake mocktails, which was also a pain to hide, but it was funny. Like, one of my best friends knew. So silver lining in that, we were like, okay, either you're going to stay sober and not be pregnant, or you are pregnant and this is just going to be something to laugh about 9 months down the line. So I come home, go get another blood work drawn, and my levels have more than skyrocketed. So my doctor orders an ultrasound and is like, okay, let's try this again. So we go for our first ultrasound. Actually, I ended up in the ER. I'm sorry, because I was bleeding. And I was like, it was November 23rd because I saved the baby bracelet or the hospital bracelet. I was like, here we go again. So I end up in the hospital or the ER. And the doctor comes in because the nurse won't, like, the ultrasound tech won't tell me if there's a heartbeat or anything. And I'm like, okay, all right. So the doctor comes in and was like, oh, there's a heartbeat. It's just really low. So you're on high risk for miscarriage again. I was like, all right, here we go. And in my head, I'm like, just remember what Roseanne taught you. Believe in God. Believe in everything she said. Work through this. There's a part in your book that talks about how there's a lady that they believe is going to miscarriage, and you talk to her and she fights through it. And sure enough, she has her baby. So in my head, I'm like, this isn't going to happen. The baby's going to be okay. Because I didn't know at the time it was a girl. I was like, baby's going to be okay. This isn't happening. I went through enough. This is my time. This is our time to have a baby. So the doctor comes in, says the heartbeat's 100. I'm on the verge of miscarrying. He says, just go home, kind of relax. You'll see your doctor in a week. So I leave, go home. A week later, I go see my doctor, and heartbeat's still there, still growing. And now she says, we're on track, like baby's on track. So I'm like, okay, this is good. This is great. I did have a subchronic hemorrhage. So in my head, they're like, or they tell you that that can lead to miscarrying. So don't be alarmed if that's what happens. So I'm like, here we go again. Well, two
How
ER
can you
visits.
not be alarmed, Fran?
That's what I said.
How can you not be alarmed? Don't be alarmed if you're miscarrying.
I was like, listen, I went through two miscarriages, and you're telling me don't be alarmed. This one I know is either going to happen or it's not going to happen. I know there's baby in there. I know baby's growing, heartbeat strong. And you want me to go home and just try to stay calm, cool, and collected? So I'm still working. I'm trying to stay busy. I'm trying to stay positive. I'm holding on to everything you say, going to church every Sunday, praying, just keeping my mind as clear as can be. Obviously, there's some doubt in my head because 2 times it's already happened. So I'm like, no, just keep thinking of what Roseanne says. So January 11th, I was working and I was getting sent to a call, and I felt like a rush of blood. And I was like, oh my God, this is happening again. But this time it's actually like physically happening. I know it's happening. So I called my sergeant immediately. I was like, I can't go. I'm bleeding. I need to go to the ER. He's like, don't worry about it. Just go. We'll take care of it. go to the ER. They immediately do an ultrasound because my friend texted her friend who works there and was like, my friend's coming in. She's freaking out. She needs to know if there's a heartbeat. Can you get to her as fast as you can? No sooner of 10 minutes being in there, I was getting an ultrasound. So that was fantastic.
And are you doing this in full uniform? Like
Yes.
we're a law enforcement family too, so I can only imagine like how crazy that must have been.
It's actually a crazy story because I left my vest with the car keys somewhere. So I was driving my squad car, left my vest. They took me off duty. Like I was no longer being paid. My sergeant was like, we'll get the squad car. Just go or call an ambulance. I was like, no, I'll drive myself. I'm not waiting for an ambulance. So I'm like in half uniform, half of my uniform's like left at our cop house. And I'm just trying to get to the ER. And I laugh about it now because I'm like, what a whirlwind, like all this stuff. And here I am today. But I get to the ER, they take me in 10 minutes later. They're looking at me kind of crazy because they're like, are you working? Were you shot? Like, what's going on here? And I was like, I think I'm miscarrying. I'm bleeding really heavily. Can I just get checked? So she does the ultrasound and she's like, heartbeat looks great. Baby looks great. Baby's wiggling. There's no blood around the baby. It just looks like the hemorrhage is exiting. Like that's what was bleeding. And I was like, you got to be kidding me today. But obviously I was like in seventh heaven at that moment. So they keep me a little longer. They just do some checks to make sure. And they're like, okay, you see your doctor tomorrow. We never know what can happen in the next 12 hours. But as of now, baby looks great. So I go home, don't sleep because I'm like, well, I'm nervous for my appointment tomorrow where I'll have another ultrasound. What if I wake up and there's no heartbeat? And that's like where my negative mindset would come in, and I'd have to push that aside and be like, remember, stay positive, because if you're positive, then everything is going to turn out positive. So I go in the next day and my doctor is like, I don't see any more bleeding. Baby's doing great. She's measuring 12 and a half weeks. Your due date still looks on track. She's like, this is going to happen, Fran. You're almost in the clear. Like you're coming up. So I was like, whew, okay. So at this point, now I start to relax a little bit. I'm very excited. We see her. I end up making friends with a lady who works at a peekaboo place, which I don't know if you guys have those, but they're like private ultrasound places. And she ends up listening to my story. Ironically, her cousin works with me. So small world, and just all these people gaining in my corner, like just being there for me. And I was like, okay, my bump squad, here they are. Like all these random people I thought were in my bump squad sucked and were bringing me down. Like I thought the fertility people were in my bump squad. No way. Then I started meeting all these other people and I'm like, oh my God, they're on my side. Like she's like, I can give you an ultrasound anytime you want. Like, let me help you. She was seriously like sent from God, because on like every 2 weeks, she's like, let's just go check in on her, make sure she's good. And I was like, thank God, like I met this lady, because that gave me peace of mind the whole pregnancy too. But fast forward a little bit, and they kept telling me that I had gestational diabetes, so I had to get weekly ultrasounds. So they were like, oh, she's measuring small now. She's going to be fetal growth restricted, which could mean you could have a stillbirth, you could miscarry, like all these things. And I was like, listen, there's no way I made it this far for you to tell me this crap, and I'm not going to get to meet my daughter. That's not happening. So I keep fighting it. I'm like, nope, just hold on. And I literally, during this time, while this is all happening, one of my friends is struggling to get pregnant. And I said, read this book, listen to what Roseanne says. If you have to pay the money to do her program, I highly recommend it. It may seem like a lot at one point, but I'm telling you, I've been pregnant twice since then. And my mentality is way more out there than I was a year and a half ago. So while that's happening, I'm like, okay, Fran, look in the mirror. Look what you're telling her. You're going to fight this. Your baby's going to be fine. Go back a month later. She's no longer growth restricted. So I was like, okay. So they still wanted to take her early just because of the diabetes. They usually don't let you run till the end. And she's smaller. She's just not a big baby. She's petite. So July 15th, I had my little girl, Gianna. C-section because she's very stubborn and didn't want to flip for me. But I'll tell you that pain was worth every second of it. We have been blessed the last 3 weeks. No sleep, but no one tells you about that part, but that's okay. So,
Oh my
uh,
gosh,
yeah,
Fran,
it's
you just
been,
had your baby girl 3 weeks ago.
yep, 3 weeks. She came out 5 pounds, 14 ounces, 18 inches long. But the doctor was like, she looks like her dad. So sorry, mom, you went through all that. And she had a great set of lungs on her. They were like, these lungs are great. They had to check her at 24 hours for her sugars to see if she was doing okay, but she was great. NICU time. We took her home. They actually kicked me out 48 hours later. They were like, nah, you're doing great. She's doing great. You guys go home, figure it out. But we came home and it's been amazing. I wouldn't trade it for the
Mm.
world. I mean, no sleep. My husband was like, I work third shift. This is going to be great. But he was like, this is a whole new ballpark of life. And with all of that, it's been the best gift ever.
Mm. Oh my goodness, Fran. I mean, what a nail biter. Like, I mean, I remember you were keeping me posted, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like, it's so like, when you think about what you were told and
Yep.
how you were told, this isn't likely to happen for you. You've got low AMH. I mean, you ended up conceiving this baby naturally.
Yep. 2 times after they told me that. Granted, one was a miscarriage, but I was like, okay, you just told me I wasn't going to get pregnant naturally. I had to do IVF. And here I am. I got pregnant naturally. Yes, unfortunately, I miscarried. And I mean, we were heartbroken. They went and tested that fetus. Everything came back fine. So they were uncertain what happened. But I was like, so it's not the AMH. It's not my eggs. My eggs don't suck. And then, sure as crap, I stopped freaking out. I stopped forcing like sex on my husband. I was just trying to enjoy life. And right before we were ready to leave for Mexico, I was like, what the heck just happened? Like, here we go. This can't be real. And it's real because she's here today.
Oh my God. You know what that means, Fran? It means you're fertile AF, girl. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you're actually, I mean, it blows my mind how we as women get so easily dismissed. Like that something so important to us as having babies that, oh, you got low AMH, good luck, that ain't gonna happen. And we just get blown off.
Yep.
But you had the courage and the grit to believe something different. Because look at you today. I mean, the other funny thing about this that I would love for you to speak on, Fran, because, you're in a largely male dominated profession. I mean, in law enforcement, it's like super uber masculine, not just because men outnumber women, but also having been part of that myself. I mean, you have to have your walls up. You
Oh,
can't
yeah.
be crying as a cop. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to do your thing and you got to, keep that poker face.
Yep.
But there was something inside of you, though, that had to flip. You had to get in contact with your feminine because something was starting to work for you. Things were starting to change. Did you notice that change in yourself?
I did. Like I said, once I did your program and I was like, okay, this lady knows what she's talking about. Like, she was boiling chickens. I mean, I didn't go that far, but I was coming right behind you with that. So I was like, I was just so negative and so like defeated. And it even showed in my work. Like, I just was showing up to calls and I was like, I'm not putting forth all my effort. And I just stopped, like, I felt like I stopped caring about everything. And I was like, this isn't me. I busted my butt to get this job. I love this job. I got married. I love my husband. I know I can get pregnant. So why am I defeating myself just because people around me are also getting pregnant? I should be happy for them. This is great. Be around those babies. Say, I want my baby. I'm happy for you, but I want my baby. So I noticed like my negative mindset, I had to flip completely. And I just stopped being so negative. And it was like, it's different too in like my line of work because you are around a bunch of males and they're like, hey, you're fine, brush it off. Like that sucks, but you'll get pregnant again. Or look at you want a baby, look what's happening out here. Look at this world. And I'm like, phew, if I keep listening to you guys, I'm gonna be digging a hole for myself with how deep I'm in here. So I just, yeah, like I said, after your program and noticing all these women talking to you and listening to their podcasts, even the group of women I was with, one girl announced her pregnancy right on my last day. And I was like, all these women can do it. And their odds were even bigger against them than mine. Why am I defeating myself? Why am I not going in a positive direction? So I did notice myself changing, and even people around me noticed the change. They were like, you're no longer sad and depressed. You're no longer like angry, or I wouldn't even talk about other people's babies. Like it would be to the point where like they would be talking about them in a group chat and I would leave the group chat because it just made me so sad. And they were like, Fran, you're really interacting. Like, are you really okay? Or is this like, should we be checking on you? And I was like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm happy for these people because I know it's going to be my time soon. So it was nice to see that positive change in my mentality completely just clear up and no longer worry about, oh, my AMH is too low. My left tube is blocked. Oh my gosh, I'm in my 30s. Am I too old to have a baby like everyone says?
Well, isn't that funny though that you're only in your 30s?
Yeah.
Like and you're already considered too old. I mean, it is beyond belief that we're still using that as a measure. You know,
Yes.
it's fascinating to me. And you know, it's funny because it would have been really easy for you to just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, look, in your profession, it's just the facts, ma'am, right? Like it's all about, you know, staying in the facts and staying focused. You know, what was it for you that had you be willing to take a look at this mindset thing? Because this could have sounded crazy, Fran. You could have said, hey, they told me my AMH is too low. Why would I ever look at my mindset? Like, what do you think it was that caused you to look in this area?
I think honestly it was after reading your book and just reading like what you talk about in there and noticing like everything I do is negative. Like everything I would say was negative. It was just, there was so much negative after that first miscarriage. And I think it was because I didn't give my mind and body a chance to focus on what happened. It was, okay, I miscarried. I need to jump back in. I'm going to be 31 years old. I'm too old. I need to have a baby. Like my cousin's on baby number 3. And here I am losing a baby. We're behind schedule. And I was like, once I finally like read your book and you talk about your age, I read Gwen Stefani was pregnant at 54. I was like, why the hell am I even caring what number my age is? Like, who cares? No one in this day and age is popping out kids like my grandma was at 16 years old. I mean, it's a whole new generation. Why am I focusing on that? So I think I needed to read your book, get my head out of my butt, and realize like my story is going to be different from anyone else's. Who cares if someone's on baby number 3? My time is going to come for baby number 1, and it's going to be perfect when she gets here. It's going to be the right timing, which is true because if I would have had baby or got pregnant and stayed pregnant right after my miscarriage, the way my mind was, there's no way my baby and I would be okay. Like I was just so broken and disconnected from reality that I needed to fix myself. And so I did acupuncture. I read your book. I, focused back on going to church. That was something I separated myself from for a long time. And I realized not everyone believes in God, or that might not help everyone, but that actually helped a lot. Going every Sunday, listening to the priest, and just reconnecting with my religion helped a lot. So I think once I finally stopped the fertility journey of like doing IUI, getting treatment, and just focusing on being happy with my marriage, happy with my family, happy with my job, all the positives I had, that's when it happened. Because
wow.
yeah, like I said, I took that test and I was like, There's no way. We leave for Mexico in 2 days. Absolutely not. Someone's joking with me. And I was like, I wasn't even trying. Like, it's crazy because normally I would track like a maniac. And then I finally was like, you know what? We're going to enjoy life. We're going to reset. We're going to go on this vacation because we need it. We've gone through a lot. And we're just going to enjoy being with each other, have some drinks, sit on the beach. And I was like, well, you'll be having the drinks for us because I'll be sitting on the beach.
You know, it's incredible to me, Fran, because you're also living proof that it's not just about getting pregnant. It's about staying pregnant. And because you were challenged even more post pregnancy. I mean, you had some pretty significant scares.
Yep. I'd say almost the whole pregnancy, it was hard to like just enjoy it because it was, oh, you're bleeding. Oh, you possibly are going to miscarry because you have a hemorrhage. Well, now you have diabetes. Well, she's measuring small, so chances are she could be stillborn or she's not going to do well outside of the womb. And all this time, I'm like, there's no way I made it this far. Found out we're having a girl, the first girl in my husband's family after 7 boys, 7 nephews. I was like, she's coming and she's going to be perfect. That's it. This is happening. So, and like I said, it was just holding on to everything you taught me from your book to, your program, listening to the other women, just holding on to little things, like remembering little things throughout it. Because obviously it's a lot of information. It's a lot to take in. But if you remember those key things to keep you going, you can fight through anything. So, and I'm here today to tell you she's here.
I know. And she's just 3 weeks old. I mean, the thing that, what you do for your profession is heroic. And it's also such a gift to have you share this part because, it's so many of us when, we have professions like that, nobody sees the softer side.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But what you're showing is this very human aspect and this part of you that was growing, this aspect of the way that you thought, the way that you were choosing to live was growing beyond what you knew, so that you had the tools when you were faced with some really scary shit to be able to say, no, she's coming. Like, I get to choose. I get to, choose my focus. She wouldn't, we wouldn't get this far for her to be taken away. Like, you had this incredible discipline, and it's just such a beautiful thing to observe, Fran, like to see this change in you. And I'm just so grateful to you and so many blessings to your family, lady, because what you went through is not easy, and doing the job that you do is not easy. And it's just, I think that what you're demonstrating here is that you can be strong and you can be a leader as you are in your work, but you can still have access to the feminine. You can still have access to the things that are real for you. And frankly, you've learned that as soon as you put your mind to something, you can make the seemingly impossible possible. I mean, that's your story, basically.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I had all odds stacked against me, even throughout the whole pregnancy. And I was like, nope, don't listen to anything these fools are telling you because this baby is coming. She may not want to flip. She may want to stay breech. That one I couldn't change. But she came and she's perfect and just everything we could have dreamed of. And I don't think to this day, if I hadn't have just stumbled across your book on Facebook, and I don't even know how that popped up because I never searched like fertility books or anything like that. I just happened to see it and I was like, what the heck is this? Let me just click it. And here we are.
And yep, history's been made. I mean, I just, I'm so grateful to you, Fran. Thank you so much for sharing your story, because there are so many women out there that when they hear things like low AMH, they have recurrent miscarriage, and they get it just seems like things are impossible. I mean, especially at, you're so young, to be told that you have low AMH and that, at such a tender age that you're going to need IVF. I mean, you could have given up.
Yep.
You could have stopped at saying, well, I don't have 50 grand to do this, or how the hell am I going to do this? But there was something in you that lit up. And thank God for that, because, your baby girl is here today because her mom chose to believe.
Yep. Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. Well, we're so happy for you, Fran. And is there anything, I mean, for the women listening, I mean, you've dropped so many bombs here and you were sharing so many lessons, but is there anything that you would want the women listening to know? And is there a particular lesson that you would want them to take from your own experience?
I think like the biggest thing for me is don't give up. Your life throws so many curveballs at you and it's so challenging and it's easy to dig yourself into that hole. But something that kept resonating with me is there's only one way up or one way left to go when you're at rock bottom, and that's up. So you can't go any further down. You're going to come up, and, you may not believe in God, or you may not believe in, I guess religion in that case. But to me, religion was a big thing, and it was God has a plan. I may not understand it. I may not know why my miscarriages happen, except to this day, I kind of feel like they happened because I wasn't ready to be a mom, even though I thought I was. Everything I had gone through, my mentality was not ready. I'm in a clear headspace, happy as can be, and giving everything to my baby now. I would just say the biggest thing is don't forget that if you hit rock bottom, you're going to come up, and it's going to happen for you. Doctors only know so much. They can tell you all these things, but you know your body. Don't stop listening to your body. Just keep fighting, keep a positive mindset. And if you really are going through a dark time, fight through that before you try again, because think about you and raising that baby. You want to give that baby everything. You want to be the most positive person in that baby's life. So I'd say those are some big things I learned along the way. And I just had to make sure my mentality was right before I could even think about being a mom.
That's so beautiful, Fran. And I really appreciate that you bring it back to faith and trusting yourself, because it's, that's faith is the thing that bridges the gap between where we are today and where we want to be. I mean, because we're taking leaps, right? You had no idea where we're doing this crazy ladies program was going to get you. I mean, that was a leap of faith in and of itself.
Yep.
And you had to keep trusting and you had to keep taking leaps. And that's exactly what you did. And it's just, I mean, this is such a beautiful, beautiful story. So thank you so much for sharing it with us, Fran. And when you go back to work, you be safe out on the street. Thank you for keeping your area safe. We love you and we're so happy for you. This is such a wonderful, happy ending. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thanks for having me. And good luck to all you ladies. It'll happen, I promise.
You heard it here, ladies. Fran's calling it. You will go from being listeners to guests. So thank you so much, Fran.
Thanks.
Love this episode of the Fearlessly Fertile podcast? Subscribe now and leave an awesome review. Remember, the desire in your heart to be a mom is there because it was meant for you. When it comes to your dreams, keep saying hell yes.